It's becoming clearer with every new episode of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage that Connor has quietly but completely stepped into Sheldon's old spot in Georgie's heart, and honestly, it makes perfect emotional sense. For years, young Sheldon showed us how complicated the relationship between the Cooper brothers was. Georgie and Sheldon were polar opposites in personality, constantly clashing but still bound by family and an underlying, if reluctant, love. But now, with Sheldon away pursuing his career and rarely part of Georgie's daily life, Connor has filled that emotional void, almost without Georgie realizing it. When young Sheldon ended, Georgie was left to build a life for himself after his father's death and his family's slow drift apart. He had Mandy, he had a baby, and he had responsibilities that forced him to grow up fast. But what he lost in the process was that younger sibling energy, that feeling of having someone to guide, tease, protect, and even argue with. Connor, as a young boy full of curiosity and mischief, has naturally stepped into that dynamic. Watching their bond grow feels both heartwarming and bittersweet because it reminds us of what Georgie and Sheldon once had, and how time and distance changed it. Connor's relationship with Georgie is built on something more natural than obligation. Georgie doesn't have to love him or look after him. He chooses to. That's a huge difference from his dynamic with Sheldon, where Georgie often felt overshadowed or unappreciated. With Connor, he finally gets to be the role model, the protector, and sometimes even the teacher, something he was never really allowed to be when Sheldon was around. And for Georgie, who's spent his whole life feeling like the underdog of the Cooper family, that kind of emotional validation means everything. What's striking about this shift is how it subtly shows Georgie's emotional growth. He's no longer the rebellious, sarcastic big brother who rolls his eyes at responsibility. Instead, he's the kind of man who steps up for others, whether that's his own child, Mandy, or now Connor. You can see in the way he talks to Connor that he's trying to do better than his father did. He's patient, encouraging, and understanding, even when Connor messes up. It's as if Georgie has taken all the lessons from his chaotic upbringing and is now trying to pass down something better. But at the same time, there's a layer of melancholy here. Georgie and Sheldon were brothers, and no one can truly replace that bond. Connor's presence fills a gap, but it also highlights just how far apart the Cooper brothers have drifted. Sheldon, now older and deeply absorbed in his academic world, doesn't seem to have space in his life for the kind of relationship Georgie once craved. And Georgie, who used to resent Sheldon's brilliance and ego, now probably misses him in a quiet, unspoken way. It's a realistic reflection of how siblings grow apart as adults, not because they stop loving each other, but because life pulls them in different directions. What makes this even more emotional is how Georgie's bond with Connor mirrors his father's bond with him. George Sr. often tried to connect with his son in those rare, gentle moments that young Sheldon sometimes showed us, teaching him how to be responsible, how to stay grounded, and how to face life's difficulties head-on. Now Georgie's the one doing that for Connor, and it's almost poetic. It's like a generational healing process. Georgie is unconsciously continuing his father's legacy, but doing it in his own, better way. Mandy's role in this shift shouldn't be overlooked either. She's watched Georgie step into this mentorship role with Connor, and it's shown her a new side of him, not just as her husband or co-parent, but as someone capable of genuine empathy and leadership. It's one of those quiet ways the show deepens their relationship beyond the surface-level humor or tension. Connor brings out the best in Georgie, and Mandy sees that. Still, it's impossible not to think about how Sheldon might feel if he saw this. In some ways, it would probably sting, seeing his brother form a bond with another kid that echoes what they used to share. But it would also make sense, because Sheldon's absence created the space for it to happen. Life goes on, and Georgie found someone who needed him just as much as he needed Sheldon once. The writers of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage have done something really smart here. Instead of trying to replicate the Cooper brothers' dynamic directly, they've given Georgie a chance to re-experience it through Connor, but from a completely different emotional perspective. It's no longer about rivalry or frustration. It's about care, guidance, and redemption. At its core, this development isn't just about replacement, it's about evolution. Georgie has grown up, learned from his past, and is now passing on that wisdom in the most genuine way possible. Connor represents both what Georgie lost and what he's gained, a second chance to nurture, to protect, and to be the kind of big brother he always wanted to be. So yes, Connor has stepped into Sheldon's spot in Georgie's heart. But instead of being a sad reminder of what's gone, it's actually a sign of healing. Georgie isn't defined by the sibling rivalry of his youth anymore. He's defined by how he's chosen to love, guide, and care for the people around him now. And that's a beautiful thing to see. For more videos, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel.